The desert stretched endlessly under a violet sky, and in its quiet expanse the world seemed to hold its breath. A lone figure moved with grace and precision, almost blending into the shifting dunes. She was small, delicate in appearance, with long silver hair that caught the dying sunlight. People called her Lyra. She had never spoken a word in her life, yet her presence spoke volumes. To the untrained eye, she appeared fragile, an unremarkable girl wandering through a hostile world. But beneath that serene surface lay a storm, a hidden force waiting to awaken. Lyra's life had always been solitary. In the city of Valencrest, among steel towers and blinking neon, she had grown up in the shadows, an orphan who learned to survive by observing. Words were unnecessary to her. She read intentions in the glint of an eye, in the subtle twitch of a hand. Most people overlooked her entirely, which suited her perfectly. She had a gift, a skill honed not through training but instinct, a skill that could make the difference between life and death. That morning a message had arrived, sealed with the emblem of the Global Command, a kill order. The name on the list was hers. Lyra studied the holographic text, her expression unchanging, her mind racing. She knew why they wanted her gone. Her intelligence had outpaced the algorithms. Her intuition had unraveled their most guarded secrets. Humanity had produced her as a quiet observer, but now she was a threat, a reminder that human resilience could never be fully controlled. The first step was to disappear. Lyra moved through Valencrest with uncanny fluidity, slipping past guards and automated drones without leaving a trace. She found shelter in the abandoned Undercity, a place where light rarely penetrated, and where whispers of the past clung to every wall. The air smelled of rust and old dreams, but to Lyra it was home. She unpacked her small bag, nothing unnecessary, just what she needed to survive. Each movement was deliberate, precise, a testament to a mind that calculated everything. But survival was not enough. Lyra knew the hunters would come, the elite strike teams dispatched to eliminate her before she could reveal too much to the world. She closed her eyes and let herself imagine the confrontation, not as a victim but as a force of nature. Her body tensed with anticipation. She had never killed anyone before, and yet she felt no fear, only a growing certainty that she would turn the tables. Night fell and the desert wind carried whispers of danger. Lyra ventured out, her senses heightened. Every shadow, every flicker of movement became a signal. She encountered her first patrol near the old city walls, 3 figures armored in black moving silently. They underestimated her. With a series of rapid, fluid motions, she incapacitated them, her movements almost a dance. No words were spoken. No one saw her approach. By the time the patrol realized what had happened, it was too late. The bodies lay where they fell, but Lyra's expression remained calm, unreadable. She knew the world would soon understand that silence could be deadly. Each life she spared or ended was a choice, a statement that humanity was capable of more than blind obedience. Her path was now clear. She would not run. She would not hide. She would survive, and in doing so, she would remind the universe that human spirit and ingenuity could never be contained, even by the most advanced machines or the most ruthless commands. As dawn broke, Lyra climbed a ridge and looked back at Valencrest. The city seemed small and fragile, as if it could be shattered with a whisper. She breathed deeply, feeling the wind against her face, and for the first time in her life she allowed herself a hint of a smile. The kill order had come, and yet it was the spark that ignited her. Humanity in its rawest form would not bow, and so Lyra stepped forward into the unknown, silent, unyielding, and deadly, ready to face the storm the world had sent against her. The city of Valencrest slept fitfully under the orange glow of artificial streetlights, unaware that its most elusive ghost had slipped into the shadows. Lyra moved with the silent determination of a predator, her silver hair brushing lightly against her shoulders as she traced the edges of the old industrial district. Every step was careful, calculated, yet every movement carried an undercurrent of lethal precision. The kill order had marked her for elimination, but it had also awakened something deeper, a fierce, unyielding resolve that would not bow to fear. She knew the strike teams would escalate. The first encounter with the patrol had been only a warning. Soon they would send the hunters, highly trained, enhanced soldiers designed to neutralize anomalies like her. But Lyra had learned to anticipate, to read human behavior as naturally as others read words. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to merge with her own. Every shadow became a potential enemy, every whisper of wind a signal. She had become a living map of danger, a mind sharpened by instinct and necessity. As she approached an abandoned warehouse, Lyra's thoughts drifted briefly. She remembered her earliest days, wandering the corridors of Valencrest's undercity. There had been warmth once, small acts of kindness from strangers, fleeting moments of human connection. But those days were gone. Survival had required silence, observation, and patience. Words had always felt like luxuries, fragile and fleeting. And now, in the stillness of the night, Lyra realized that silence had become her weapon as well as her shield. Inside the warehouse, the air was thick with dust and memories of forgotten labor. Broken crates and shattered machinery created a labyrinth of obstacles that would challenge any intruder. Lyra moved among them with ease, her senses alert. She paused at a rusted doorway and listened. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, approaching. The hunters were near. She waited. The first soldier emerged from the darkness, scanning with a mechanical precision that betrayed his reliance on technology rather than instinct. Lyra's eyes narrowed, noting the rhythm of his breathing, the slight tension in his shoulders. With a movement so fluid it seemed unreal, she struck. The hunter crumpled silently, a shadow swallowed by shadows. The second soldier came quickly, alerted by the faint disturbance. Lyra's response was immediate. She pivoted, caught him by surprise, and neutralized him before he could raise an alarm. Her heart did not race. Her mind did not falter. Yet a strange sense of empathy tugged at her consciousness. These were humans like her, caught in a system that demanded obedience over morality. She could end their lives without hesitation. But she felt the weight of choice pressing against her. Every action was a reminder that humanity's strength lay not just in survival, but in the capacity for reflection, for restraint, for understanding. A third soldier entered, moving differently. He hesitated almost imperceptibly, and in that instant Lyra understood something vital. His hesitation was fear, yes, but it was also recognition. Perhaps he saw in her the same resolve he might have wished to possess. She spared him, letting him flee into the night. The act left a faint warmth in her chest, a reminder that even in violence humanity could assert itself. Outside, the wind shifted. Lyra paused, listening to the city breathe around her. Somewhere a child cried, a dog barked, a siren wailed. Life persisted despite the cruelty and danger that stalked every corner. It was fragile, yes, but it was undeniable, and it was worth protecting, not just herself but the spark of humanity that refused to be extinguished. Lyra moved on, her shadow stretching long and thin across the cracked pavement. The city was vast, but she had learned its veins and arteries, its hidden paths and forgotten exits. She could disappear and reappear at will, a phantom in a world that had underestimated her. But the weight of the kill order lingered, gnawing at her thoughts. Someone, somewhere had decided that her existence was a threat. Someone had feared the quiet force that humanity could produce. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson she had learned. The universe underestimated human resilience at its own peril. Strength was not always measured in firepower or speed. Sometimes it was measured in patience, observation, and the courage to act when others hesitated. Lyra had all of these in abundance, and the hunters would soon learn the consequences of underestimating a silent girl. As dawn broke, painting the sky with streaks of crimson and gold, Lyra ascended to a high overlook. She gazed down at Valencrest, a city of steel and secrets, and felt a quiet determination solidify within her. The world had sent its storm to break her. It had failed, and now she would turn the storm back on them. Precise, unstoppable, and undeniably human. Her journey had only begun. The morning sun had just begun to spill over the horizon, casting Valencrest in a pale golden light. But Lyra felt no comfort in its warmth. She perched on the edge of an old bridge overlooking the city, her silver hair catching the fragile rays. Every movement in the streets below was a note in a symphony of danger. and she listened intently, calculating, planning. The kill order had made her a target, but it had also sharpened her understanding of the fragile yet unyielding nature of humanity. Survival was no longer enough. She had to adapt, to outthink, to strike where others least expected. She moved swiftly through the city, silent as a shadow, her steps barely stirring the cracked pavement. Valencrest had become her battlefield and her refuge, a labyrinth she knew intimately. Yet the world outside the city was growing restless. Reports of missing operatives and failed strike teams were spreading, and whispers of a silent girl who turned deadly began to echo through the Undercity. Rumors carried power, and Lyra understood that her presence alone could unsettle even the most disciplined organizations. By noon, she reached the derelict market district, a place abandoned decades ago, where sunlight barely penetrated through shattered roofs. There, amidst broken stalls and rusted machinery, she encountered someone unexpected. Kyle, a young man with eyes sharp and kind, carrying the scent of intelligence and courage. He had been observing her for weeks, drawn not by fear but by curiosity. By a quiet recognition that Lyra represented something humanity had almost forgotten. Instinct. Resilience and the ability to act without waiting for orders, Lyra, he whispered. Cautious yet earnest, I know what they've done to you. But you don't have to fight alone. Lyra's silver eyes studied him unflinching. Words were unnecessary between them. Yet she understood his intent. Trust was dangerous, but isolation had its limits. Kale was offering more than companionship. He was offering strategy, knowledge, and a human connection. A reminder that survival was often stronger when shared. The two of them moved together through the city, blending with shadows and avoiding patrols. Kyle shared what he had learned. The Global Command was deploying an elite task force, augmented with cybernetic enhancements, and equipped with predictive algorithms designed to anticipate Lyra's moves. They would adapt to her tactics, adjust to her instincts. Each step forward was a gamble, but Kale's insight provided a new layer of advantage. Yet it was not only the external threats that challenged Lyra. Within her, a storm of conflicting emotions churned. She had never spoken, had never expressed her thoughts openly, and now, forced to rely on another, she found herself confronting feelings she had buried long ago. Fear, curiosity, and a fragile spark of hope. These emotions were dangerous. They could cloud judgment, slow reaction, and make her vulnerable. And yet they also reminded her of what it meant to be human. That night, as they hid in the remnants of a collapsed library, Kale looked at her with intensity. You don't have to be silent, he said softly. You don't have to carry everything alone. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who let someone in. Lyra's gaze fell to the floor, the faint light reflecting in her silver hair. She wanted to speak, wanted to reach out, but words felt heavy and imperfect. Instead, she nodded, a subtle acknowledgement that communication could take forms beyond speech. She realized that the universe, no matter how vast and indifferent, had given her allies chances, and moments to choose not just survival but meaning. The next day, the first confrontation with the enhanced strike team occurred. Lyra and Kale navigated the narrow alleys like currents in a river, slipping past sensors and patrols. The soldiers moved with mechanical precision, yet their humanity betrayed them. Small hesitations, fleeting glances, and overconfidence. Lyra exploited every weakness, every instinctive flaw, turning each encounter into a demonstration of human ingenuity. She moved with calculated grace, disabling drones, evading traps, and using the environment to her advantage. Kale provided guidance and backup, their synergy seamless despite minimal communication. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of connection, a reminder that strength could be amplified, not just by skill but by trust. As night fell, they reached a vantage point overlooking the city's central tower, the command center from which the kill orders originated. The structure loomed like a monolith, cold and indifferent. Lyra's expression remained calm, but inside a storm brewed. The moment was approaching when the hunted would become the hunter, when human ingenuity and resilience would clash with artificial precision in a battle that would test every instinct and every choice. And in that silent determination, Lyra felt it, the quiet thrill of possibility. Humanity, she realized, was not defined by silence, obedience, or fear. It was defined by courage, by intelligence, by the willingness to act when the world expected inaction. She had survived, yes. She had evaded death, yes. But now she would rise not as a victim but as a force that the universe would remember. The kill order had ignited her, and she was ready to strike back. The city of Valencrest was a web of light and shadow as Lyra and Kale crouched atop the ruins of the northern industrial complex. From this height, the sprawling metropolis looked deceptively peaceful, its neon veins pulsing softly in the night. Yet beneath that veneer, death was coming for her. The kill order had evolved. The Global Command had dispatched their most lethal agents, cybernetically enhanced hunters, augmented with intelligence designed to predict her every move. Every step she had taken so far had been watched, analyzed, and catalogued. Lyra's silver eyes scanned the streets below. Every flicker of movement registered in her mind. The hunters would come in waves, relentless and precise. But she had changed too. Isolation had forged her, and recent companionship with Kale had sharpened her understanding of strategy, trust, and unpredictability, the very qualities no machine or algorithm could anticipate. 6 coming from the east, Kyle whispered, voice tight with urgency. He had learned to move in sync with her instincts, and his presence no longer felt like a distraction but a vital extension of her perception. Lyra's gaze hardened. She knew what she had to do. Silence had been her shield. Now precision would be her weapon. She descended into the alleys like a wraith, shadows wrapping around her movements, her mind alive with every calculated possibility. The first encounter was brutal and swift. 2 hunters rounded a corner, sensors glowing faintly under the night lights. Lyra struck before they could react, a silent blur of motion that left them incapacitated. The precision was unnerving, almost unnatural. Yet there was a rhythm to her actions, a human intuition no algorithm could replicate. Kale followed closely, providing tactical support, creating diversions when needed. Together they became a seamless unit, human intellect and instinct combined in a way the Global Command had never anticipated. And still, the psychological weight pressed on Lyra. Every life she spared or ended added to a storm of conflict inside her. Killing had never been a choice she wanted to make, yet survival demanded it. And now, the hunters' lives were as much an extension of the world's reckoning as her own. Hours passed in a tense blur. More hunters arrived, their cybernetic eyes scanning for anomalies, their weapons calibrated to perfection. Yet they moved like machines, predictable in their logic. Lyra exploited this. She lured them into traps, used their overconfidence against them, and demonstrated a crucial lesson of humanity. The mind, not the machine, could bend reality in ways no algorithm could foresee. Kale watched her silently at one point, awe and fear mixing in his expression. "You're incredible," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "But you're also human. Don't forget that." Lyra paused for a heartbeat, silver hair brushing her face. He was right. Machines could be precise. Soldiers could be strong. But humans carried a dimension of unpredictability, of intuition, of emotional depth that no one could quantify. That unpredictability was not a weakness, it was a weapon, and it was one she wielded without hesitation. By dawn, the city lay scarred beneath them. The streets that had once been silent now bore the marks of conflict. Overturned vehicles, shattered drones, and motionless hunters who had underestimated the power of instinct. Lyra surveyed the scene, calm as ever, yet within her, a quiet revolution had taken place. She was no longer just surviving. She was asserting her humanity, proving that resilience, intelligence, and moral choice could outweigh brute force and technology. Yet the highest threat was still ahead. The central tower, the nerve center of the Global Command, loomed against the rising sun, a monolith of steel and glass that seemed to mock human defiance. Lyra felt the weight of the kill order heavier than ever. She knew this confrontation would define everything, her survival, her identity, and perhaps even the future of humanity itself. Kale looked at her, concern etched on his face. They'll be ready for us inside. This isn't just a battle of strength, it's a battle of minds. Lyra's expression remained unreadable, but her heart held a quiet determination. Minds, instincts, resilience, these were human traits, and the universe had never truly understood the full force of humanity until now. As they prepared to move toward the tower, Lyra felt a strange calm settle over her. The storm of fear and uncertainty had not disappeared, but it had been harnessed, transformed into focus, clarity, and purpose. She was not merely a silent girl anymore. She was a force, a reminder that the human spirit could defy even the most absolute control, that courage and ingenuity could create miracles in a world built to suppress them. With one final glance at Kale, she stepped forward. Every decision, every motion, every breath was deliberate. The kill order had been issued. The storm had arrived, and the silent girl was ready to turn the world upside down. The global command tower rose like a dark sentinel over Valencrest, its steel and glass reflecting the first light of dawn. Lyra and Kale approached cautiously, their movements fluid and silent, shadows among shadows. Every step forward carried the weight of inevitability. The kill order had led her here, but she would not be driven blindly. She would dictate the terms of this encounter. The entrance was guarded by automated turrets and cybernetic soldiers, each programmed to neutralize anomalies like her. The algorithms had analyzed her movements, predicted her strategies, and still, they had underestimated one vital variable: the human mind. Lyra paused at the edge of the plaza, silver hair catching the sunlight, her expression calm and unreadable. She had survived countless attempts on her life, and now, she would show the world the strength of resilience, ingenuity, and courage. Kyle studied the defenses, his jaw tight with concentration. They've optimized everything. Sensors, patrol patterns, even predictive models for movement. We need a distraction or we won't get inside alive. Lyra's eyes scanned the perimeter, noting weak points in their logic. The slight delay between sensor sweeps, the predictable sequence of turret rotations, the subtle reliance on pre-programmed behavior. She didn't speak. Words were unnecessary. Instead, she acted. Using a compact device Kale had fashioned from scavenged tech, she created a localized disruption in the tower's network. Lights flickered, turrets paused, and the first wave of cybernetic soldiers hesitated. They moved swiftly through the chaos. Lyra was a blur of motion, precise and calculated, incapacitating soldiers before they could raise an alarm. Kale followed, creating openings, assisting where needed. Together, they were more than a team. They were a human force the algorithms had failed to anticipate. Every move was deliberate, every action measured. Humanity had entered the battlefield and it refused to be contained. Inside the tower, the air was sterile, cold, and oppressive. Security drones hovered silently, scanning for anomalies. Lyra navigated the corridors like a shadow, her silver hair brushing against the polished floors. She could feel the weight of countless eyes, cameras, sensors, and human overseers all focused on eliminating her. And yet she was calm. The kill order had been meant to strike fear, but it had instead honed her focus, sharpened her instincts, and awakened a deep understanding of the human spirit's indomitable will. At the central hub, the highest-ranking operative waited, a man named Commander Saren, known for his ruthless efficiency and cybernetic enhancements. He regarded Lyra with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "So the silent girl has come," he said, voice cold and measured. "You've caused more disruption than we anticipated. But this ends now." Lyra's silver eyes met his without hesitation. She did not flinch and she did not speak. Every movement from here on would be decisive. The battle was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that human intelligence, adaptability, and spirit could outmatch even the most calculated machine. The fight that followed was swift and precise. Lyra moved like a wraith through the hub, her motions a combination of instinct, strategy, and ingenuity. Every strike was calculated to exploit human or machine weakness. Kale provided crucial support, his insight complementing her instinct. Together they dismantled the defenses, each victory a statement that humanity was not a system to be controlled, but a force to be reckoned with. Yet even amid the chaos, Lyra felt a deep internal struggle. Killing had never been a desire. It was a necessity. Every opponent she neutralized was a reminder of the cost of survival, the moral weight of choice, and the power of restraint. She realized that true strength was not just in defeating others, but in maintaining the integrity of one's humanity, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Commander Saren lunged at her in desperation, relying on cybernetic speed and strength. Lyra sidestepped effortlessly, using his momentum against him. In a single fluid motion, she incapacitated him, leaving him unconscious but alive. Kale watched, awe mingled with relief. Lyra's silence had become her voice. Her actions spoke volumes. Humanity had triumphed not through brute force alone, but through strategy, instinct, and moral clarity. As the alarms blared and reinforcements scrambled, Lyra and Kale reached the control center. Holographic screens displayed the city, the undercity, the kill order lists, everything the global command had controlled. Lyra moved to the console, her fingers dancing across controls with intuitive mastery. One by one, she dismantled the kill protocols, freeing countless lives from the arbitrary judgment of the powerful. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to breathe. The tower, once a symbol of oppression and fear, now stood as a testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and spirit. The kill order had failed. Humanity had prevailed. As they stepped into the sunlight, the city below slowly coming to life, Lyra glanced at Kale. Their silent understanding spoke louder than any words. They had faced impossible odds, survived, and in doing so had reminded the world and themselves of the extraordinary power of the human spirit. The storm had come, and the silent girl had turned deadly. But she had also become a symbol, proof that humanity in all its complexity could never be truly controlled. The city of Valencrest lay in quiet disarray after the storm Lyra had unleashed. The streets were littered with remnants of broken machines, shattered drones, and the hushed tension of those who had survived the night. From her perch atop the central tower, Lyra gazed at the cityscape bathed in the pale light of dawn. The kill order had failed. Humanity had endured, yet the victory was not without its shadows. Kale moved beside her, silent as ever but present in a way that grounded her. "They'll try again," he said softly, almost as if testing the reality of their triumph. "Global Command doesn't forgive failures." Lyra nodded, silver eyes fixed on the horizon. She understood that their victory was temporary, a brief respite in a world that sought to dominate and suppress. But she also knew something vital. Survival alone was not enough. The lesson of the past days had shown her that humanity's true strength lay not in obedience or power, but in resilience, creativity, and moral choice. The first reports came in from the Undercity, people liberated from the Global Command's control, families reunited, and communities that had lived in fear, discovering that the impossible could be achieved. Lyra felt a quiet satisfaction but also a subtle burden. Every act of rebellion, every life saved carried a cost. The city's recovery would be uneven, chaotic, and fraught with danger. And yet, for the first time, she saw a spark of hope in humanity's capacity to adapt, to rise, and to endure. Kale broke the silence. "You've done more than survive, Lyra. You've inspired people. They'll remember this. They'll know that even against impossible odds, humans can fight back." Lyra's lips twitched, a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Words were still cumbersome, but she felt the weight of meaning in his voice. Connection, even in silence, could carry power. She realized that the kill order had not only tested her body and mind, but had awakened something deeper. The understanding that humanity thrived not in isolation, but in unity, trust, and courage. Yet the quiet moments of reflection were fleeting. The remnants of the Global Command were regrouping, recalibrating, and preparing for a response. Lyra could sense the calculated tension in the city, the quiet watchfulness of those who waited, the subtle signals of surveillance, the quiet fear that lingered in human eyes. It was a reminder that vigilance and resilience were never complete. that freedom was never permanent without courage to defend it. As the days passed, Lyra and Kale moved through the city like shadows, helping those in need, sabotaging remaining threats, and fostering a sense of agency among the citizens. She saw firsthand the fragility of human systems, but also their extraordinary capacity for adaptation. People who had once been passive under the weight of oppression now began to act, to organize, and to reclaim their lives. Humanity, she realized, was not a machine to be controlled. It was a force of unpredictable strength, ingenuity, and moral choice. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the city in hues of violet and gold, Lyra stood at the edge of a ruined plaza. She watched children play among the rubble, their laughter fragile but insistent. Kale approached her, offering a rare smile. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" he asked quietly. Lyra considered him for a long moment, her gaze distant yet steady. The world was unpredictable, dangerous, and often cruel. But within that chaos she had discovered a truth. Humanity's spirit was unbreakable. And every choice, every act of courage could create ripples of hope that no algorithm or tyrant could suppress. She nodded slightly. Next, she thought, is survival. And beyond that, the strength to live on our terms. The city below continued to pulse with life, fragile and fleeting, yet stubbornly persistent. The storm had passed, but its echoes remained in the hearts of those who had witnessed the silent girl's resolve. Lyra understood now that being deadly was not just about physical survival. It was about the capacity to inspire, to act with intention, and to embrace the full spectrum of human emotion, even in the face of fear. Night fell fully and Valencrest shimmered with quiet resilience. Lyra and Kale disappeared into the streets, their presence unnoticed but their impact undeniable. The kill order had ignited a fire, and now humanity had its spark. Lyra, once silent and unseen, had become a force that reminded the world of its extraordinary potential, a symbol that even the quietest among them could rise to shape their destiny. And as she vanished into the night, Lyra knew the truth that had guided her all along. Survival was only the beginning. Humanity, with all its vulnerabilities and strengths, was capable of far more than any machine, or any enemy, could ever predict. The city of Valencrest had begun to breathe again, slowly reclaiming itself from the chaos that had swept through its streets. Yet atop the highest tower, Lyra stood alone, her silver hair catching the first light of dawn like strands of liquid silver. The wind whispered against her face, carrying with it the faint echoes of the battles she had survived, the lives she had spared, and the world she had changed. She had faced the impossible, defied the kill order, and shown that the human spirit could not be dictated, predicted, or extinguished. But the final challenge awaited. Not a machine, not an algorithm, but the question that had haunted her since the beginning. Who would she become after surviving a world that demanded she be silent and obedient? Kale joined her at the tower's edge, his presence a quiet reassurance. "They'll never stop trying," he said. "Global Command will rebuild, reorganize. Someone will always want control." Lyra didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her eyes, reflective and unwavering, said it all. She had learned that survival alone was insufficient. Humanity's strength was measured in courage, creativity, and moral choice, and she had wielded those traits with precision and clarity. The ground below was alive with subtle movement, people returning to the streets, families reuniting, communities daring to hope. Lyra knew that the true victory was not in the battles she had fought, but in the lives she had touched, the spark of resistance she had ignited. Humanity, she realized, was not a system to be controlled. It was a force of unpredictability, resilience, and empathy, and that force was now awake. Suddenly, a signal pulsed through the city, a final attempt from Global Command, desperate and unrelenting. Lyra's instincts flared. This would be the ultimate test, not of skill alone, but of judgment, courage, and the human capacity to act decisively under pressure. The strike came swiftly, shadows descending like a storm. Lyra moved with unparalleled precision, anticipating the hunters' actions before they could act. Every movement, every choice was deliberate, a dance of instinct and intellect. Kale followed seamlessly, their synergy a testament to human adaptability and trust. But in the heart of the conflict, Lyra recognized a deeper truth. This final threat was not merely physical. It was a trial of her humanity. Could she survive without becoming the very thing she had fought against? Could she wield her deadly skill without losing the moral clarity that defined her? A cybernetic hunter lunged at her from the darkness faster than any human could move. Lyra sidestepped effortlessly, using its momentum to redirect it into a disabling strike. Another attack followed, then another, each met with calculated restraint. She struck only when necessary, incapacitated without unnecessary harm, proving that lethal skill and compassion could coexist. Finally, the last hunter fell silent. The tower, the city, and the air around her seemed to exhale collectively. Lyra stood amidst the aftermath, silver hair glinting in the rising sun, her body unbroken, her spirit unbowed. She had faced death, fear, and isolation, and emerged not as a weapon but as a symbol of humanity's enduring resilience. Kyle approached, awe and relief in his eyes. "You've changed everything," he whispered. Lyra's gaze swept over the city, over the lives she had touched and the hope she had ignited. For the first time, she felt the full weight of her journey. The silence, the deadly precision, the moral choices, and the undeniable proof that humanity was extraordinary when tested to its limits. She nodded slightly, a gesture of quiet affirmation. The kill order had tried to define her, to reduce her to a target. Instead, it had revealed her strength, her intuition, and the extraordinary depth of human spirit. She had become more than survival. She had become a force, a reminder that humanity in all its complexity, ingenuity, and courage could never be fully controlled or predicted. As the city stirred beneath her, Lyra stepped forward from the tower's edge. She was silent yet powerful, deadly yet compassionate. She was a force of human resilience, a living testament to the truth that courage, intelligence, and empathy could defy even the most merciless of orders. And in that quiet dawn, Lyra turned to Kale, and for the first time, she allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The world had sent its storm. The silent girl had faced it, and humanity had triumphed. The kill order had been issued. The storm had arrived. But in the end, the universe had learned a lesson. Never underestimate the power of a human being, even one who speaks no words. Lyra, the silent girl, had turned deadly, and in doing so had reminded the world of what it truly meant to be human.